Hello again, and welcome to MLR Weekly, as presented by Rugby Wrap-Up. Matt McCarthy in New York City. Thanks for joining us. We have a great show, including
USA.
They won the bronze medal.
Let's go.
Congrats.
Unbelievable. How about that USA Women's Sevens victory, Matt?
Head coach of the New England Free Jacks, Scott Mathie, ahead of the final, the Shield, the championship match. We also have Cam Moody, director of the Can-Am Rugby Tournament. It was another spectacular event in the Adirondacks. I just got back. Very excited to talk and recap it with him. We also have Bryan of America's Rugby News with his predictions and opinions on what's happening with the final. We also have Rugby Morning's Coffee Break with John Fitzpatrick. But before we get to any of it, we have the best dang recap in rugby. Let's get to
Rugby
it.
Wrap-Up's MLR Weekly brought to you by Sheehy Auto Stores. It's easy at Sheehy. The Pig and Whistle, New York City, the world's best rugby pub. And Lean and Limber, stretching your way to a healthier lifestyle.
And Red Hot Hounds engaged in an epic battle. The home team bolted, or flew in the case of Reese McDonald, to a 10-point lead. But death, taxes, and Dylan the Butcher Fawcett scoring off a maul are the constants in life, folks. And Chicago's hooker helped silence the Quincy crowd as his team held a 1-point lead with under 10 minutes to go. But those wicked good Free Jacks are like jury duty notices. They keep on coming, and they too have a wily hooker to turn to, Andrew Quattrin, and he burrowed his way for the winning score, and New England's defense stymied the Hounds the rest of the way. Final score, 23-17, Free Jacks. In the Pacific Northwest, Rocky the Seawolf was seen pacing for the second week in a row, soaked in worry. And he had every reason to be worried, as the Dallas Jackals, despite having two players in the sin bin, were able to charge their way to a 20-7 lead in front of a stunned and shocked Seattle fan base. But mighty Joe Taufete'e got his Seawolves back in it while his team was shorthanded, setting up a wild ride of a second half that saw J.P. Smith drop what would have been a sensational try in goal. Dallas roared back to seemingly seal the match, only to have the Seawolves and their 16th man break the Jackals' hearts with a stunning try. But minutes later, final score 28-25 Seattle, who secured their place in the championship match versus New England. And boy, we could use a break after that, so why not slip into our recurring segment, Rugby Morning's Coffee Break, with John Fitzpatrick calling in from the District of Columbians, or the capital, Washington, D.C. John, you look excited. You look very worked up. Welcome, and what do you got? What are you so happy about?
USA, USA, USA. Matt, unbelievable. How about that USA Women's Sevens victory, Matt? Let's just put this into perspective here. So they won the bronze, but let's put in perspective how improbable that whole sequence was. USA down 12-7. There were 8 seconds left in the game. 94 meters in front of Alex Spiff-Cedric, the pride of Salt Lake City, Utah. When she caught the ball, she had to break 2 tackles. She had to beat 3 defenders and race down to score to tie the game. And then, as she's desperately trying to catch her breath, she has to kick the conversion to win it, and she freaking nails it. Matt, one of the craziest 15 seconds in the history of USA Rugby. Nothing but chills. All-time sports moment in terms of walk-offs. You can't match it. Matt, it should go on the Mount Rushmore of sports highlights. Un-freaking believable. Woo!
It was exhilarating. It was the stuff of Hollywood. If you wrote it on a script, nobody'd believe it. And it was that moment that could turn the tide for American rugby. And again, Mike Friday said on this show years ago that the storefront for USA Rugby should be the women's sevens program because you could make the most impact in the shortest period of time. It took longer. It took longer, certainly, but man, what a victory. Now what's the expectation? Are we expecting them to medal every Olympics now? Is that the unfair expectation? Because you saw how difficult that was. You saw the teams, I mean, you saw Canada too. Canada, against New Zealand, and that was another spectacular match. But
kudos to them for getting silver for sure.
Yeah, but it's all so tough. I mean, it's you got to enjoy it, and just got to enjoy it. And everybody, just keep down the expectations.
You got to enjoy it. It's hard not to look forward in 4 years when LA and the U.S. hosts the Olympics. How wild it would be for the USA Women's Sevens to repeat, to get another medal, a better one. USA Men's Sevens getting in the mix. I mean, it's hard not to get excited about all this. I know we don't want to look too far ahead, but let's savor this moment.
We can't get too excited about it right now because we don't have enough time, and we got to get to other stuff in this segment. But that's certainly the news and the best news that we could have in rugby in the last year and a half. At least 2 years, 5 years, 10 years, forever, perhaps, other than 1924 when we won our last Olympic gold in 15s when there's only 3 teams there. Next.
It's finally here, the MLR Championship final. Your New England Free Jacks versus the Seattle Seawolves. Matt, the Free Jacks in the finals for the second straight year. They have a chance to be the first repeat champions since Seattle pulled it off in 2018 and 2019. Of course, the Seawolves will be in their 4th final in 7 years. Matt, this is going to be one heck of a final. What do you think?
I think it's great, but I want to correct you. You said my New England Free Jacks, and I would say that last week it was my Seattle Seawolves because Adrian Balfour, the owner, was on. And this week it's my New England Free Jacks because Scott Mathie, the head coach, is waiting in the green room to come on. So I'm wishy-washy on the fence and follow the money. So I think this is going to be a great final. 2 seasoned teams. All they did was win. It's the 2 best teams in the league, right? And it's what you want. It's going to be at a great venue. So I'm excited. I'm very excited. Well, how about you? Are you excited about this?
Well, I'm excited for a variety of reasons. One, the game will be on Fox. So again, a national broadcast, Sunday, 4 p.m. Eastern time. Tune in, everyone, please. The final's also going to be at Snapdragon Stadium. Now, I'm hearing some rumors of upwards of 14,000, 15,000 maybe fans in attendance. Matt, will we see a new MLR attendance record?
If we're building on last year's crowd at Chicago, where people had a great time, I think it's only natural that there's more in San Diego, and it's a great venue. So a great venue, 2 great teams with 2 great fan bases that will travel, right, even last minute. I think they could set a record, damn it. I'm going to go with that. Next.
Hey, Matt, other MLR news. It looks like Houston SaberCats wing Christian Dyer, his time in Houston is coming to an end. He posted a message on Instagram that seems to suggest he is moving on. Now, the Capped Eagle, Matt, what do you think? Is he going to stay in MLR or potentially pursue an opportunity overseas?
Well, translating that message, I would say, number one, we can say that he sounds like a Dyer in terms of leaving his Houston roots, but it could be a negotiating ploy as well. Let it known that he is not under contract, maybe to get a new contract. But there's going to be some change in Houston, from what all indications are in terms of maybe staff. Who knows? Stuff's up in the air. But I know that they thought they would win this year. They came up short. The winds of change are blowing in Houston, and part of that might be Christian Dyer moving on to another team. And if he goes into another team, that team's a lucky team because he's a good player. And he's an American. Goddamn American. Next.
Matt, final thing here. New England Free Jacks versus Seattle Seawolves. My pick to win it all, the New England Free Jacks.
Well, the rugby odds has the Free Jacks favored by 3 points, and it's largely due to A, experience, but B, and more importantly, injuries, because Seattle has been really banged up. They got here banged up, and they continue to go along with it. I am very, very jacked up for this Free Jacks versus Seawolves. I almost said Mariners match. Is that it, John?
Yes, Matt, that is it. Woo.
All right, on that note, I want to thank Mr. John Fitzpatrick of Rugby Morning.
USA.
Digs like a demented mole there.
Need a great price on a new vehicle? Sheehy makes it easy. Easy Price shows you our lowest prices on the Mid-Atlantic's largest selection. Find your best price online or at any of our 31 dealerships.
It's easy at Sheehy. Sheehy.com.
You need your cleats? You need them tomorrow? If you order today by 3 p.m. New York time or noon LA time, they can have them to you tomorrow. Young, old, male, female, if you're playing on turf, if you're playing on grass, if you're playing in the rain, you're playing in the heat, they've got you covered. RugbyNow.com. Go there now. And we're back, and we have the pleasure and the honor of welcoming back to MLR Weekly the head coach of the reigning champion, the defending champion, and final bound New England Free Jacks, Scott Mathie. Scott, welcome back.
Hey, Matt, always good to be on the show, man. Good to see your face.
Likewise. I think you're like one of the few people on the planet that would actually say that, but I appreciate it, and I'll take it. So, Coach, big match coming up this weekend. It's the Shield match. You already have the Shield. You're going to have to make room for 2 Shields, perhaps. Are you nervous?
I'm actually doing all right. I think there was a lot of nerves in the DC game. I think a lot of expectation there, and probably the first playoff game to see how guys went under the pressure. But I think we responded really well, and we've seen, like, just with the guys that have experienced that last year, there's a bit more calm and in the week and in the weeks that have been. So less nervous than I would have expected it.
And this is coming from a coach whose team kind of makes it, squeaky bum time for the coaching staff, because they're not afraid to play from a deficit. This time you didn't have to. You got off to the lead. But, what did DC do differently, or how did they throw a wrench in the works?
Oh, look, I think they're just combative. I think there's a real there's a history there also. There's a history of rivalry, and I think the games this year have kind of we probably haven't been always as clinical as we have liked to have been early on, and I think that allowed DC to get some real impetus early on. Whereas I felt we were able to withstand a great deal of pressure from Chicago early on in the game, and I think that made a big difference in last week's game. If
Chicago had played DC for the Eastern Conference Championship, who do you think would have won?
It would have been tight, but I think maybe Chicago. I think Chicago, a lot of it just depends. I think we were quite. It was always tough, that first one, but I think when the first seed came into our favor in the second game, because Chicago had to travel to NOLA, had to then come back on a 6-day turnaround, travel back home, then come to us. So whereas that first game there was no real advantage except the home field. Both teams had an exact amount of time to prepare. The second game, we got there a bit of advantage there. So, I think it would have been close between Chicago and DC. Maybe Chicago, just who knows.
How important is the Quincy home field advantage for you? Was it throughout the playoffs?
When it came down to, crunch time, when it really mattered, I think we delivered our best performances at home, and under pressure, and that's a great sign. It's a good sign of a team that, runs towards that pressure and enjoys it. And so I was really buoyed by those two performances, I guess. So.
And you've played in San Diego. You've played at Snapdragon, right? So you're kind of familiar with that place. Do you feel like there's any home field advantage sort of leaning towards Seattle because they're on the West Coast?
Oh, look, I think the travel situations obviously, favor Seattle, you would say, but we don't really see it like that, to be honest. Like we really enjoy away trips. It's obviously an awesome opportunity to get around each other, and we get to spend a couple of days with each other again, which is not you don't have that when you're at home. So, man, and it's final week. I mean, there's no more excitement and energy around going to play in a final, a big final. So, no, we thrilled. I think there's going to be a lot of energy for this trip, and Snapdragons, it's an awesome stadium. We've had the privilege of playing there twice now, and obviously the last time went our way. So, yeah, we're just looking forward to playing on a bit of grass too.
What's the feeling for you, having won this already and now going back again?
No, the feeling like I'm just really pleased with how we've gone about the season, and that's why I think every season is completely different. You face we faced very different challenges this year from what we did last year. We've had to deal with different things. We've had to rely on different players, and so it has been a completely different setup, and that's why everything we do this year, you can't reflect on it in the same way as last year. It needs to be a new path. It needs to be a new adventure, and I believe the guys have really embraced that this year. I mean, we're going to obviously play a really formidable opponent. It's going to be a great game. But I think we just trust in what we do and what we've always done, and just nothing changes, I guess, from us from day in, day out.
If you had to liken your style of play and Seattle's style of play for a fan at home sitting on the couch that's used to NFL type analysis, would you say that you're one team is like an open offense and one team is more defensive, or is just all out the window?
I think if you look at the two conferences, you'd probably say that Seattle and ourselves are more similar. If you had to pick a team from the West and the East that are fairly similar, you'd probably pick Seattle and ourselves. We both have different strengths here and there. We've got a bit of line speed in our defense. They've got some big boys that make some real dominant double tackles. Both got very good kicking games. I mean, it's evenly matched. Their set piece is very strong. A good scrum. I just think there's threats all over the place. I think it's that both teams have got a lot of threats across the field that you can't be off for a little percentage of the game or knock off on one area, because both teams, I think, have the ability to punish you if that happens.
I know you can't get into detail, but what's the overall health of your club? But if you had to say from 100%.
No, for me, regardless of the injuries, we're 100%. You got to rely on your squad, and we say that and we preach that. So there's no good us going when we get some injuries to key players or injuries to guys, us going, oh, geez, it's trying to start searching for excuses and things. That's the whole point of having a good squad and relying on that, and trusting that recruitment and trusting those players that we have empowered to take over those roles. So for me, this is the best team that we can put out, and we're proud of that.
Wise words from a coach that's done it before. He knows what he's talking about, ladies and gentlemen. Scott, I want to thank you for coming on. I really appreciate it.
Awesome, Matt. Great chatting, mate.
Best of luck on the weekend, and the best to the boys. We have to take a break. We'll be right back after this. And we are back, and we're back with Mr. Cam Moody, the director of the Can-Am Rugby Tournament. Cam, it was a spectacular event. You're battered and bruised, as you could tell by the black eye, and it's got nothing to do with me. And I just want to clear the air. And I want to say this: an indicator of a successful tournament is selling out of merchandise on the second day of a 4-day tournament.
Everything flew off the shelves. So that was awesome up there at the field. The beer was selling out down at the park. I mean, we had a ton of people here, way more than normal, and we knew it was going to be big, but I think it was even bigger than we had expected.
It was tough.
It was quite a battle for those teams, and we guaranteed everybody 3 games in that Premier Division, so they got quite a bit of rugby in. And that final matchup, what a way to finish the day with a battle between the Myths and Legends, White Plains. Hard-fought game, and definitely an exciting one. You could tell by the stands being packed still, even at that time of the day, and people hitting the road after. But what an outstanding group of ruggers that we had here all weekend, and just so happy that we could give something to the rugby community that went as well as it did.
But I just want to say congratulations, a spectacular 50th anniversary. Everything was great, including the military and old breed and the first responders all playing and coming out, and us getting an opportunity to show them some respect. The ceremonies were spectacular. Again, I just can't wait for next year. Cam Moody, and we'll get his name right this week on the lower third that we didn't get right the last time you were on. Thanks for coming on.
And now your Major League Rugby Play of the Week, brought to you by the Rugby Network. In Quincy, Massachusetts, Reese McDonald did what he does best. He made something special out of nothing by speeding up the gut through larger Chicago-packed players on a tantalizing trip to the try zone in a match decided by but one try. With his team shorthanded and bloodied after allowing 10 points to Dallas while the Jackals were down 2 players, Joe Taufete'e pounded home a pivotal try for Seattle, cutting into the 20-7 deficit and giving his team a morale boost and a pathway to victory. Down 12-7 with 6 seconds left on the clock and any bronze medal hopes 95 meters away, the USA's Alex Cedric did the unimaginable, the unthinkable, the extraordinary, slipping the exhausted grasps of 2 valiant Australian players and raced the length of the field to score the tying try, one that will be watched over and over for years to come. She then kicked the conversion at death, sending her country to the podium and making Olympic sevens history. And the Rugby Network Play of the Week is Alex Cedric's unfathomable Olympic moment. It can be no other. Here's your TRO, the Rugby Odds MLR Picks of the Week via WWE Hall of Famer turned rugby advocate and excellent handicapper John Bradshaw Layfield and King Gift A. Belu, the Yogi Berra of rugby.
This is about as close to a coin flip as you can get. Seattle's got an incredible defense. I think Reese McDonald is the difference. And I think the Free Jacks, they're the defending champions for a reason. And this is a big deal because you've got Seattle, who's been the cream of the crop for so long. This is New England's chance to take them off that pedestal and put themselves on it for quite a while. I think New England, the Free Jacks, end up winning this.
I'm sorry. I've been too long of a hater of the Seawolves to give them proper props. So in the reality of it all, it's because I don't like you. All right. You're part of Sunhole Stadium. And I want you to lose. So give it up to the Free Jacks. Shout out Rucky. I know we cool, but yo, I gotta hate on you as well too, man.
Be sure to check out the critically acclaimed The Rugby Odds. It's a sports entertainment show that also has insightful opinions and exclusive highlights. Plus, you needn't know anything about anything to enjoy it.
I wouldn't like to be at the bottom of that.
If you're in New York City and want to watch some great rugby, have some great food, and some great times, go to the world's best rugby pub, the Pig and Whistle on West 36th Street.
Hey, U.S. fans, you can tune into every match live on Flow Rugby. How do we know that? Because we're on there all the time. This is the Rugby Odds, where an unlikely pundit panel of a wordsmith, a WWE legend, a rugby star, and a supermodel scour the globe, seeking best bets and bad behavior. Are you not entertained? And we're back with Mr. Bryan Ray of America's Rugby News, your one stop for everything rugby in the Americas. Bryan, you're all jacked up, free jacked up. And I guess it's because you're Free Jacks, you're flop jackals. I shouldn't be saying that because Scott Mathie, the head coach of New England's Free Jacks, was just in. But you're at Snapdragon in your gear. What's going on with you?
Got to celebrate the return of our Maple Jack.
You're at Snapdragon in your gear. What's going on with you?
Got to celebrate the return of our Maple Jacks, the only Canadian side left in Major League Rugby, heading back to the championship final. And I do believe if you wind back the clock to our very first kind of preseason chat, this was the team that I predicted would be in the final. Granted, I didn't quite get the Western Conference right, but I'll take 1 out of 2.
All right, that's not bad. Batting 500. And for the folks at home that don't understand the Maple Jacks reference, Bryan is a Canadian. He lives in Nova Scotia, Halifax. So go visit him. The Rugby Odds has New England
favored by 3 points. What's your take?
We're looking at a Seattle side that, is pretty battered, but what they've been going with is a pretty big forward pack. We've seen the past couple weeks picking Jean Drost at the blindside flank and, really kind of owning that set piece, or they've been trying to. They had some troubles against Dallas, you have to say, but at other times they look pretty strong. Certainly in the line out, I think they're pretty good. And I think that's kind of where they'll lean heading into this final, is really kind of own the set piece. I mean, if you look at New England, that's not really what, their strength this season, although their line out has been going fairly well the past couple weeks. But I think the scrum maybe not so well, and the loss of J.R. Jenkinson to a knee injury in that semifinal is a big blow to their scrum. So I think we're going to see a Free Jack side that wants to move the ball around, quickly. They're a system team, but they
get it to Reese McDonald.
Yeah, get it to Reese. Get it in Jason Potraz's hands as much as possible. Let him make plays. Wayne Vanderbank, who's been one of the best players of the season, and really try and control possession, I think, and earn some penalties that way. With Seattle, I think they'll try and play a bit more territory. Mac Mason and that siege gun boot from Devon Rousseau. I'm not sure if we're going to see Dan Creel in this one or not. He came off early in that semifinal, so
that's a big component if they don't have Creel, and they're banged up across the board. Joe Taufete'e, he's banged up. He plodded on, but there's only one game left, right?
Yeah, I would expect we'll see Joe in there, whether he's stapling or putting something in that leg to keep it together. But Creel, if Creel's out, that I think that changes the game plan, because that takes away one of your really big gain line, carriers, and certainly a very sound defender in the midfield. But that would bring Sam Windsor in and give them another kicking option. So just kind of reinforces my thoughts that this will be a tactical approach from Seattle. So interesting clash of styles. I think, and both of them have big game experience. I mean, this is the fourth final for Seattle in the 7 years. So it's not like they haven't been in these situations before, but certainly New England were in the final last year. They know what that pressure kind of feels like. So I think that kind of leans in their favor. And
would your outfit give it away? No.
Yeah, really. So, +3, I'm willing to stretch that a little bit. I think they'll cover this I'll go with the Free Jacks by 5. It's going to be a great game. I expect it'll come down to the very end. Maybe there's a late score to stretch it out a little bit, but no, I expect this to be a very good game.
Yeah, it's a matchup of two teams that just won when they needed to, seemingly all the time. And here they are. And I think that, you got it. Seattle is so banged up. And that match against Dallas being down 27 and then battling back, and, it was ferocious. They were banged up going in. They're certainly more banged up coming out. But again, as Adrian Balfour said last week, it was just 2 games. Now it's just 1 game left. 1 game left, right? Should be exciting. I'm looking forward to it. And on that note, we're out of time. I want to thank Mr. Bryan Ray of America's Rugby News, Mr. Scott Mathie, the head coach of the New England Free Jacks, Mr. John Fitzpatrick of Rugby Morning, Cam Moody of the Can-Am Rugby Tournament, and thank you for tuning in. Please check out our other shows, including the critically acclaimed The Rugby Odd. It ain't just gambling, and it ain't just rugby, it's rugby entertainment. Also, hit that subscribe button on YouTube, sign up for our weekly newsletter, and please join our American Red Cross Blood Donor Team.